Well, hi guys. It looks like the camera stopped. So anyway, let's get back to it. This is part 2. This, as we can recognize, this is the 7-Up girl. This is a shard of the 7-Up bottle from the 50s and the 60s, known as the slenderizing girl. The curvaceous beauty on this emerald green shard became a 1930s merchandising hallmark. Promotional materials boasted, "Burn that adipose. That's the way to slenderize. 7-Up is the spark that fires the body sugars, that burns and melts away the fat. So 7-Up slenderizes." The company founder's son, H.C. Griggs, created this trademark design among others. Introduced in 1929 with the unwieldy name of Bib label Lithiated Lemon Lime Soda, the carbonated beverage did contain fewer calories than its competitors. The 7 bubbles in the logo's design were integral to the advertising claims. 7 natural flavors blended onto a savory, flavory drink with a real wallop. One of the earliest slogans recommended 7-Up for 7 hangovers. Another said, 7-Up alkalizes and corrects acid conditions. It normalizes and sweetens the stomach. Due to what was called the maturing of the company, the slenderizing girl had lost her place in the corporation's marketing strategy by the late 30s. So this is the slenderizing girl of 7-Up. 7-Up. This is very nice. Look at that. This is because, I can read it here. Because of its translucent qualities, sea glass is often housed in bottles or jars and placed on windowsills. Here, a collection of well-traveled bottlenecks have found a home in a candy jar. Some beachcombers call them emeralds. Others think of them as the world's finest Others think of them as the world's finest jade. Still another notion is deeply rooted in sea lore and perpetuated by writer and artist Mimi Carpenter in her book Of Lucky Pebbles and Mermaid's Tears. An excerpt. Quote, "She was different from all the others, wearing fins on her nose and her ears. But the most remarkable things you would notice were her scales and her soft green glass tears. The real origin of green glass is, of course, less romantic. It is created with chromium, copper, and iron. So the way these pieces of glass get this way is its interaction with chromium, copper, and iron. Trapped in the icy surf, this white flecked turquoise shard might have begun its long journey in England. The Nailsea Crown Glass and Bottle Manufacturers opened in Nailsea near Bristol in 1788, specializing in bottles and windows. At the end of the workday, glass workers combined the molten remnants to produce useful and whimsical items such as hats, walking sticks, pipes, hunting horns, cruets, and rolling pins for their families. The term end of day glass and Nailsea type glass still apply to sturdy colored glass objects that are flocked or trailed with white. This fragment was probably made between 1790 and 1830. At the height of popularity for end-of-day glass in England, the curved inner rim suggested it was the base of a water pitcher or jug. It's very interesting. Let's look at the glass here, and yeah, this is the text. So if you want, you can read it. So this way we'll see more of these wonderful items. Oh, this is a nice bunch. Once globs of molten lead, these weathered fragments grew out of glass blowers' pipes. They are called kick-ups or dimples. Each solid indentation once anchored the base of a wine or rum bottle. Dark green was believed to keep spirits from spoiling, and some bottle manufacturers added iron slag to the molten glass in order to achieve a darker, almost black shade. Kick-ups were created to provide extra strength. The larger shards still retain some of the bottle's outer edges. Their rounded bottoms suggest that they originated in the 18th century. The smallest shard measures approximately 3/4 of an inch at its base. So these were part of bottles. These look like rings. Oh, that's a nice colored seashell. For all those who sniff that sea glass is worthless trash, these shards are highly prized in the world of fashion. Time and again, when the natural look resurfaces as a trend, the designers such as Calvin Klein adorn their models in naturally shaped sea glass rings. These bottle lips originated from a variety of sources, common to early mineral water containers. The one on the far right is known as a blob top due to its shape. The one on the far right, let's see. So that would be this one over here. So that's known as a blob top due to its shape. Oh, it's like a blob. Very interesting. So these are natural rings that were formed from the necks of bottles. The largest shard in this group measures approximately 1 inch wide. Anyway, let's continue on. This is a nice one. This one here and this one. Yeah, you can see the text over here for this green. This purple is very beautiful. This one is a nice one. More akin to rhinestone than diamonds, these shards bear the blunt edges and mold lines that are characteristic of pressed glass. This mass-produced 1820s invention filled a need for inexpensive tableware, decorative vessels, and even Gothic revival window panes. Sandwich, Massachusetts, boasted the largest pressed glass factory until its closure in 1888. Today, nearly 200 years later, the product is still widely manufactured. These shards represent part of the evolutionary story. From its inception and through the 1850s, heavy glass with simple patterns prevailed. More elaborate geometrics dominated the market until the late 1860s, and by the 1870s, nature inspired the patterns. Later, pressed glass took on a lacy appearance. More facets were also added to better reflect light and to more closely resemble finer cut glass. Here we see the glass and the text. This is a perfume stopper by Lalique. This exquisitely rendered piece demonstrates both the delicacy and strength of glass. Except for a few chips, the amethyst-colored perfume stopper somehow remained intact despite the ravages of the sea. Its square top was molded and pressed in Art Nouveau style, dating from around 1910 to 1917. This perfume dauber was created by the French glass manufacturer Lalique. Oh, here we go into other types of shards. You can read this. This is nice, very nice. And then here, this is a nice pile of very beautiful pile of sea glass. Mounds of shattered beer, wine, and liquor bottles seem to shore up the pilings under a popular coastal tavern. Is this a sea glass hunter's dream or an ecologist's nightmare? Oh, beautiful, very beautiful glass. So that's under a popular coastal tavern. Then we get into others. Oh, this is ceramic. This is not glass. We're getting into ceramics here. Here we'll get the text so that you can read it. Artists are able to take these and make a mosaic out of it and make artwork. Let's see what this says. Here we'll get the text and you can read it. Oh, here you see there's a nice scene over here. And this you can see. It's right next to some seashells, right on top of some seashells. Oh, this is another type of, it's a scene. Here's the text. Two women stroll down a cobbled path edged by a stone wall. The mist rising from the sea in the distance hangs on the air with a palpable saltiness. Dressed in Victorian frocks, the women seem to stop mid-stride, transfixed. This image is a diminutive portrait disconnected from a larger story. A scene on an English transferware plate. J. Clemenson from England's Staffordshire region produced two patterns that contain this image. One known as Tessino and the other as Loreto. The artist who executed this design will probably never be known. So this is a popular image. The artist who executed this design will probably never be known. Since England's Registration of Designs Act was not enforced until 1842. Illustrations used in transferware were taken freely from any source and without acknowledgement. Most of the engravers who contributed their own creativity in transferring the original artist's concept to pottery were anonymous. The resulting illustrations were a combination of plagiarism and imagination. It is known, however, that English potters borrowed heavily from the works of French painter Antoine Watteau, 1648 to 1721, and English portraiture and landscape painter Thomas Gainsborough, 1727 to 1788. In fact, Impressionist painter Pierre Auguste Renoir, 1841 to 1919, apprenticed as a porcelain decorator in France at age 13. So this is a scene, a very nice scene. Here we have some more, this looks like earthenware. Whether it is employed for storing, cooking, fermenting, preserving, or serving food, stoneware was indispensable in the majority of 18th and 19th century kitchens. These shards once belonged to crockery that held delights such as pickled vegetables, stewed fruits, and preserved meats. According to food historian William Wise Weaver, author of America Eats, Forms of Edible Folk Art, early American potters seem to have captured all the subtleties of garden soils, brown sugars, and thick preserves in the very colors of their clays. Quote, from black jam pots to brown ketchup bottles, vintage pottery represents different types of garden soil. The black bottomlands of northern Ohio, the yellow loams of Kansas and Iowa, the gray clays of New England. To me, they embody the multitude of early American gardens and the broad range of recipes that came out of them. Today, a briny tinge still lingers in some pickled crock fragments. Today a briny tinge still lingers in some pickled crock fragments, and an air of musky spice survives in fruit jar shards. Many stoneware pieces carry the balmy scent of potter's clay laced with some long-lost ingredients from another century. This is a very good book for if you're interested in all the various types of glassware and stoneware, pottery, and things like that. The name of the book, again, is Glass Chronicles, Whispers from the Past. Whispers from the Past. That's by text by C.S.Lambert, photographs by Pat Hanberry. We'll go a little bit faster, or else maybe we'll make another video, perhaps, at a different time. Yeah, this looks like a scene with two horses. Here's the Currier and Ives. Oh, these two horses were undoubtedly taken from a Currier and Ives print, known for recording historical events, in addition to the social and economic life of 19th century America. Nathaniel Currier and James Merritt Ives captured the spirit of the times with both romanticism and realism. A letter sent to their sales representatives in the 1870s described nearly 1,100 subjects. You will notice that the catalog comprises juvenile, domestic, love, scenes, kittens and puppies, ladies' heads, Catholic, religious, patriotic, landscapes, vessels, comic, school rewards and drawing studies, flowers and fruits, motto cards, horses, family registers, memory pieces, and miscellaneous in a great variety of all elegant and saleable pictures. Hundreds of Currier and Ives prints reflected the public's keen interest in horses for fashionable drives through the city and country, as well as for competitions at the racetrack. Celebrated champions of the day, such as the white-faced gelding named Dexter, were repeatedly honored in Currier and Ives prints. Aside from their professional interest, both Currier and Ives had a passion for horses and often accompanied their artists to the track while they made sketches. This shard most likely originated as a commemorative earthenware edition of Currier and Ives' prints. The artist was probably Thomas Worth, known for his cartoons and comics. His horse prints, however, are considered among his finest works. It is easy to imagine that these two horses are, in the language of the late 1800s, knocking the seconds down or breaking an established record. So there they are, the two horses in the Currier and Ives print. Teacup handles, that's what this is, teacup handles. Some of these fragments can be linked to elegant Victorian afternoon teas with cakes, sandwiches, and cups of claret. Others tell tales of more rustic farmhouse meals where, in the British vernacular, tea was so strong that a mouse could trot on it. Still other handles remind us of the Chinese proverb, quote, "The wisdom of 10,000 universes can be found in a cup of tea." So these are teacup handles that washed up on the shore and became sea glass. Here we get the text of this, and this is a very good reference book. So not only does it have about sea glass, it has also about all types of earthenware and bottles and glasses, and so somebody interested in that subject, this is a very highly recommended book for that. Avocational beachcombers tend to make associations with sea glass. Sometimes they are symbolic and sometimes prophetic. Here a white fragment bears one of the first backstamps used by Buffalo China, circa 1915. The name Lambert most likely belongs to the artist who hand painted the piece. The moniker is shared by the author who found this shard. Here we have the text and the pottery, the sea glass pottery, the sea shards. Oh, that's a nice scene. Nice beach scene over there, and here's the sea glass. This is another shard with a scene on it. Here's the text accompanying it. This is a nice tableau here of some sea shards with the text. Another couple of these pages, and we can stop for a while, hold on for next time, perhaps. Later on there are dolls, pieces of dolls. Here, let's just show you a sample of what they have. Dolls. Parts of dolls. Look at that. The hand of a doll. And frozen Charlottes and other personal ceramic doll parts. There we go. This looks like a Chinese one. Of English or American origin, this glazed fragment dates from around 1880. Created for everyday use, Rockingham pottery was common yellowware with a brown marganized glass. The imposing raised mandarin figure was central to the decorative theme on a batter pitcher or jug. Oh, it's good we kept this. We didn't miss this. It is not difficult to imagine author Charles Lamb, 1775 to 1834, at his normal Wednesday evening open house in London with William Wordsworth and William Hazlitt among the literati in attendance. Lamb nicely described a teacup in his essay, Old China. That's the name of the essay, Old China. Quote, here is a young and courtly mandarin handing tea to a lady from a salver 2 miles off. See how distance seems to set off respect. And here the same lady or another, for likeness is identity on teacups, is stepping into a little ferry boat moored on the hither side of this calm garden river, with a dainty mincing foot, which in a right angle of incidence, as angles go in our midst, must infallibly land her in the midst of a flowery mead, a furlong off on the other side of the strange stream. Quote, farther on, if far or near can be predicated of their world, see horses, trees, pagodas dancing in the haze. This shard measures approximately 1 inch by 1 1/8 inch. So that's an interesting, very interesting shard. Here's another. One artist, William Gilpin, provided inspiration for many potters in Staffordshire, and this image might have been copied from his illustrations. A clergyman by profession, Gilpin traveled across England at the turn of the 19th century and painted scenic and city views. His distinctly romanticized interpretations, published as aquatints drew many imitators. The influx of such fanciful drawings and paintings became known as the cult of the picturesque. The image on this chart is a tiny part of a large coastal village scene, and the woman in a dust cap is actually a fish peddler. Here she is. An unknown Staffordshire potter created this flow blue pattern, Fisherman's Hut, in the mid-1800s. This chart measures approximately 1/8 by 3/8 of an inch. Anyway, here's some more of the that's a dog with a foot, or no, that's it could be the part of a bottom part of a jam jar or something. But anyway, this is a head of an animal. The dreams of a young horse fancier must have been shattered with the loss of this valiant steed. The remarkably detailed shard must have been a toy figurine made of hard ceramic. Okay, anyway, yeah, here's more. Anyway, yeah, these are the two. Here's the author. C.S.Lambert wrote the text for the educational coloring book Tall Tales from Tall Ships, Colby, 1982. She has worked in publishing as both a writer and an editor during the past 24 years. For Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston Lambert contributed to the acclaimed 1997 Elements of Literature series. Over the years, she was an editor for the International Herald Tribune, French Times, and W. Fashion Life. Her articles have appeared in American History Illustrated, Equinox, France Today, Yankee, the Gloucester Daily Times, the Sunday Sentinels, and the Camden Herald. Lambert has collected sea glass over the past 15 years on 5 continents. She lives in Camden, Maine, so this must be her collection. So she's collected it from 5 continents in the past 15 years. Pat Hanberry is a nationally recognized art, nature, wildlife, and travel photographer. She freelances for the FPG International Photo Stock Agency, and her work has appeared in Florida Wildlife, View magazine, and Florida's Fabulous Seashells. She has won a Kodak International Newspaper Snapshot Award, as well as awards from the Manatee Council for the Arts, the Bradenton Art League, and the Leach Studio. In conjunction with her animal portraiture, Hanberry has received commissions from Purina and the American Humane Society, among others. She has taught photography courses since 1968 and conducts workshops throughout the southern states. An avid sea glass collector in her own right, Hanberry lives in Bradenton, Florida. Oh, this is interesting. This is the back part of the book. Down East Books, Camden, Maine. So here we go.